Welcome to Dreams Inspire Reality Podcast with Tara Darnley, a podcast for creatives looking to turn their dreams into reality with practical strategic steps from everyday people and entrepreneurs who are living their best lives possible.
Hey, everyone. I'm so excited about this episode. As you guys know, we've been talking a lot lately about just investing and making sure, even though we're all making amazing money, we also want to know what to do with it, right? And so I have a special guest with us tonight. We have Kendra Barnes, who's a full-time real estate investor and founder of the Key Resource. Her real estate investment afforded her the ability to retire from 9-to-5 life at the age of 32. So she's completely killing it. She created the Key Resource to inspire, empower, and educate people about the power of home ownership and real estate investment. She currently owns and manages not one, not two, but 4 properties, 8 rental units total. Her key message to anyone looking into buying a home or rental property is you don't have to hit the lottery or be left an inheritance to buy property. You can start with what you have right now. You are worthy of wealth. I love that. Hi, Kendra.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am great. I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you for making time for us from your busy schedule. I know you just had a newborn. So I know, motherhood is probably kicking your butt right now.
Yes, girl, you know it.
Yes, so I'm so excited to have you on. So in your own words, can you share with us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm a real estate investor, and I started investing in real estate like 6 years ago. But before that, I was just going about life like you are supposed to do. Like, I'm putting up air quotations because I went to undergrad, I went to grad school, I got a government job, and I was just working. And I figured I'd be working until I was like 70 something because that's the American dream, right? To get that good government job and just stay there until you can't anymore. But I stumbled across real estate investing randomly playing this game called Cash Flow. And basically it's like Monopoly, but so much better. And it inspired my husband and I to get into real estate investing. And so we started about 6 years ago, and we got addicted to it and just haven't looked back since. So yeah, I'm a real estate investor in DC right now. Our rentals are in DC and Maryland.
Oh, that's awesome. So I know DC, I've been visiting there quite a bit between last year and this year. And it's really, guys, if you're from either DC or, to me, it reminds me of New York, right? So it's probably on like the expensive end,
Yeah.
I would say. So if you have investment property, I'm sure it's doing amazing. So are you originally from DC, or are you, did you relocate? How did you end up in DC?
So no, I'm actually a military brat. So my parents were in the Air Force, and we moved quite a bit. So I don't really ever know where to say I'm from. Like, I'm from the world. I don't know. But I came to DC because I got a job working at the Department of Agriculture. My undergrad degree and my graduate degree was actually in agricultural economics. And so I became an economist for the Department of Agriculture, which is so random. I'm sure you're like, what? But yeah, that's how I ended up in DC.
Okay. And let's take it a step back. Let's talk about how you even got into real estate. So I know that I read your bio, and I mentioned you retiring from your 9-to-5. What was your 9-to-5? Knowing now what you actually have a degree in, what was your 9-to-5, and like how did you make that pivot to say, you know what, I'm gonna start investing in real estate? Like, how did that even come about?
So I was an international economist, and I did that for about 10 years, actually.
Wow.
So, and I never liked it. Even when I was in graduate school, I knew that this was not the career path I really wanted to go, but I didn't really know what else to do. And so I just kept at it because I was doing well. It's just that I was like, I don't think this is for me. And I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've never liked working for anyone, but I didn't know that there was a way out. And so, like I said, I had played this game called Cash super randomly one day, and it just opened my eyes, because here's the thing, like with the game, in order to win, so you're basically in the game, everyone has a job. Like you can be a police officer or a doctor or a lawyer or a nurse, whatever. You have bills, you may have kids, you have all these expenses. And so you're basically living paycheck to paycheck. And the only way to get out of the rat race of life in the game is if you make smart investments.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to win the game is to invest in real estate. And so I played that game. My husband and I played it, and we just had this huge awakening. Like, wait a minute, if the only way that we can win this game is to invest in real estate, and we're not even investing in real estate in real life, like we are not winning in real life. Like we're missing out because our money isn't making money. And it just was like, whoa, here we are with these government jobs. We were living really well. We didn't want for anything. We weren't rich, but we were definitely not broke, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were living well, but we were not building wealth. And it was just like, whoa, we're missing out on so many opportunities to grow our money. So
wait, can you say that again? We were living well, but we weren't building wealth. Like that's so impactful right there.
Yeah. Because we had money, and we were like saving for things like going on trips, which is amazing. I mean, like live your life. I don't think people should like miss out on enjoying life, but we were like spending money. I think we spent like a few $1,000s on getting like a custom closet built in our house. And if we had known then what we know now, we did not need that closet, and we could have invested in stocks or real estate. And that could have paid for the closet instead of using our earned income. And so I started out working the government job. I never liked it. And then when I realized like, oh, I can be my own boss. I can create my own future. I can create my own retirement through investments. It started this shift, and we started working to free ourselves, right? To make sure our passive income would support our lifestyle. And so it took us about 5 years to get to a point where we could completely replace our income and then comfortably leave our government jobs. But here's the thing. I want to pause and say, this is not like a 9-to-5 bashing thing. I think that everyone should do, because I tell my story and I kind of hesitate. I don't want people to think that I think everyone should leave their job. Like if you love your job, please stay there. And when you're starting to invest, it's really important that you have that job anyway, that stability. Like, I don't think you should just jump out there and leave.
Exactly. And I think, especially for our audience, most are either full-time, I think it's a balance between full-time entrepreneurs and creatives who are still working in their 9-to-5. And that's really what we focus on how to practically turn your dreams into reality. So don't feel like, you can share absolutely anything, because this is what they want to hear. They want to hear how you took your, from your 9-to-5, because they're all working on that. I think everyone, not everyone, most people are working, towards that of creating their own life, whatever that looks like, their own schedule, and just having freedom. Most people are working towards. So don't hold back anything. We're here for it. And no one, I'm sure, won't take it as, we're bashing or anything. So thanks for clarifying that though.
No worries. And I will say, for any of you who are looking to become full-time entrepreneurs, what you should know is that when it comes to getting a mortgage, so if you're going to try to buy a house with a loan from a bank, it's very hard to get one as a full-time entrepreneur. If you don't have at least 2 years of income from your business, a bank will be less likely to lend you money. But when you have that W-2 income from an employer, it's easier to get a loan. And so that's why I say, if you have that 9-to-5, use it to your advantage now, because once you leave, it gets harder. It's not impossible, but it does get harder.
That's so true. That's so true. Ooh, that was a lot already. So, okay, you were able to make that pivot. I want to talk about what I loved about your story was the sacrifice, because so often we hear stories and they're all like successful stories, and no one really talks about the grind of getting there. So I love the fact that you mentioned in your story, you talk about how you and your husband basically sold your dream home to get another property, which we're going to jump into what we call house hacking, and how you were able to house hack and share that with our audience, please, on like why you did that, took those steps, and the benefits of it now, because so often we don't talk about, okay, how do we invest in ourselves? What are the sacrifices that need to be taken now to see, a return on investment maybe 5 years from now or a year from now? So can you touch on that, like that pivot, that mindset shift, first of all, to say, you know what, we're going to have to give up this amazing house that we just built, this $2,000 closet to go into another property just so we can see the return on investment later.
It was hard. I didn't always have this wealth building mindset. So when we first played the game cash flow, we were like, oh, we want to invest in real estate. We went and looked for our very first property, which was a duplex, which is a 2-unit building. And we're like, all right, we're going to buy this. The numbers make sense or whatever. But the down payment was really high. So if you're buying a rental property and you're using a mortgage, have to put 25% down, which is a lot of money, especially in a DC area. But we didn't know at the time there were other ways to go about this to save money. So we ended up borrowing that money from our retirement accounts, which is not the best idea in the world. It's an option, but it's not the best for everyone. So we had to put like $52,000 down, which like, who has $52,000 just to play around with? We didn't. So we had to borrow it. But what we didn't know at the time was we could have house hacked. And so house hacking is when you buy a multi-unit property, you live in one unit and you rent out the other units. And the benefit of it is the down payment is drastically decreased. So whenever you're living in a property, you only have to put as little as 3.5%. You can put down 10%, but you don't have to put down that 25. And so we could have put down only $8,000 rather than putting down that $52,000. That would have been a huge savings. But I wasn't really willing to give up my dream house and my $2,000 closet and my backyard and garage and movie theater room and all these things that we really didn't even use. But it was just like that comfort, right? So then on the next property purchase, once I kind of got more comfortable with the idea of what it takes to build wealth, we actually did house hack. We bought a 4-unit building, moved in one, rented out the other units. And it's not easy, but if it were not for that house hacking experience, I would not be retired today.
So see, guys, the sacrifice ultimately paid off. And I think isn't the goal when it comes to house hacking is to have tenants cover your mortgage, so you're basically kind of living rent free, which I thought was super genius, super amazing, that you're getting some kind of income, and at the same time you're not having to worry about paying your mortgage because someone else is taking care of that. Now it. Right. I was like, wait, see, I was trying to tell people this, but no one wanted to hear it, but it's fine. So let's talk about different ways of investing, because I know there are so many, like in any space, the entrepreneur space, the real estate space, there's so many noise, right? And the best way to do things. And the popular thing that we often see, especially on TV, is house flipping. Now you're seeing more of the wholesale, and now you're seeing more people doing house hacking. I know you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you kind of really focus on the house hacking and rental properties. In your opinion, in 2019 going into 2020, what is the best investment to make in terms of real estate?
I love that question. So if you hear anyone say that there's only one best way or one right way to invest in real estate, run. Like seriously run the opposite direction, because there is not like one right way. This is what I love about real estate. There's so many ways to do it, y'all. Like, and it really depends on where you are with your financial situation, how much time you have, how much money, how much knowledge. So one of my good friends always says you only need 3 things to invest in real estate, and that's time, knowledge, and money. But you do not personally have to have all 3. So if you time and knowledge, but no money. You can borrow money from a bank. You can team up with someone who has the money. Like, there are so many ways to get in. So there's flipping, there's wholesaling, there's house hacking, there's, what am I missing? There's investing in tax liens. There's, doing private money lending in real estate. There's mobile home investing, and it really depends on how much time and money you have and really where you can start. But, I have a quiz on my site too that basically helps you figure out where you should start, because I don't want everyone to feel like house hacking is like the only way. It's just what I've done. Yeah.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Well, the word investment, right? You're thinking, I have to put up my own money. And perhaps you're like, well, I don't have any money to put up. But that's a myth, right? And what I love about what you teach is you teach how, not necessarily how you can use other people's money, but you also educate people on that aspect. And I think it's important not only to know that there's various ways, like you just mentioned prior to this, but I think it's also super important to see people that look like us in this space, right? Because
so important.
aren't a lot of people that look like us in this space, especially Black women. And so when I see that, I'm always like on cloud nine, because I'm like, yes, we're out here doing it. We're out here killing it in different industries, right? So share a little bit about that, because even as myself and my husband prepare to go on this journey, some of the things we've been doing is just like really researching those who've like really been super successful in this field. And I remember we were listening to the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert, and he was just talking about how much millions he owed, right? And I was just like, what? I was like, but he's a millionaire. Like, why is he owing money? And then as you start researching, you really start understanding wealth. You know that most wealthy people, they really don't use their money.
Nope.
They use other people's money. But for us, and it goes back to educating ourselves too, for us, we're always taught, like, don't get in debt, have good credit, and all these things, which are true, but there is also good debt and bad debt. So let's talk about that. Let's educate the people about good debt, bad debt. If they're like, I absolutely don't know where to start, I don't have any money, or maybe I have, $10,000 or whatever, $5,000 I've been saving. Like, how can I, go into this?
So many good questions and so many good points. So one,
I know that was an overload. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love your point of view. Like, one, representation is so important. That's why I do what I do, because I didn't have anyone to look to when I was starting out to say, like, oh, like, I didn't realize so many young Black people were out here doing it. And I didn't have anyone to follow. No one ever told me growing up, like, hey, did you know you could be a landlord? Like, I didn't know that was even possible at, being a young Black woman. The second thing is, when it comes to using other people's money, I am like so for it. So there are some experts like Dave Ramsey who say that you should not invest if you have debt. I don't believe that. He preaches that, you shouldn't buy a house until you can buy it like all cash. And for me, that means that so many people will be losing out on the opportunity to make money or make their money grow, because they would have to wait for so long until they save up enough money to buy a house. I mean, just think, in most markets, a house will cost over $100,000.
Exactly.
What average American can save up $100,000 or more while they're paying student loans and paying for their kids' daycare and all? It's I'm not going to say it's unattainable, because you can literally do whatever you put your mind to. But for me, it's a very privileged way of thinking to say, like, don't buy a house or a car until you've completely paid off all your student loans. How? Like, what? And I don't know. I don't believe that. I believe that you should definitely leverage all the resources you can. And so if you are looking to buy your first house, definitely make sure you look into down payment assistance. There are so many grants and resources out there for down payment, first-time home buyer programs, but still save money though. Like, still save, still leverage resources, and that when you leverage those resources, you can make your money stretch further. I always suggest that people have at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up before buying a house, because it is a big responsibility. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you get a down payment grant that pays your entire down payment, which there are several out there that will, still make sure you save money. So yes, one, representation is key. Two, yes, use other people's money like the bank and down payment programs and things like that. And I forgot the third part of the question, but yes to all that.
I forgot too. What was the third part of the question? Okay, we talked about, representation, using other people's money.
Oh,
Anyway,
where
you
to
got it.
start? If they
Oh
don't have
yeah.
any.
If they have like 5K or 10K, or if they have any type of savings and they're
Mhm.
like, okay, I want to start.
Yeah, so I would say look into house hacking, because with house hacking, you only have to put down, 3.5%, and that can get you pretty far in a lot of markets. Think about investing out of state if you live in a high cost of living area. There are places like Detroit and Chicago and
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland, Ohio, where you can really get great rental properties. Thinking about investing in tax liens. So that's I won't go into the whole process here, but Google it. It's a way to invest in real estate without actually having to own a property per se, and you can still make your money make money. Here, the bottom line is make sure your money is making money
Yeah,
somehow, some way, even if you cannot buy a property just yet. Like make sure your money is growing. Own something, stocks or something.
that's so true. And I want to go back a little bit because I know you were able to, kind of reverse what you did. So you started off as a home, single family. I'm not sure if it's single family, but you started off as
Yep.
a homeowner, and then you went into like a multi-family apartment or complex. You went into multifamily. What if
Hmm.
someone, they have a single family home and they want to make that pivot and sacrifice too, and say, you know what, I want to do it too, as I'm seeing the benefits long term for building wealth. What were some of the steps, like, immediate steps that you took to get, to kind of reverse what you did? Or would you even suggest that, somebody, redo basically what they did, and it's like, am I making sense? I'm making sense, but I hope it's making sense.
So you're saying if they want to
Yeah. So
house
okay.
hack
So
after?
yeah. So say I'll just use me. If I purchase a home and then I'm like, okay, I want a multifamily investment property. So I'm investing one, and I'm not going to be paying rent, and it's like I'm looking at the long term. How do I reverse that? Like, how were you able to reverse what you did? Did you just sell off your home immediately once you had that mindset shift and said, you know what, this is what we're going to do, and this is a sacrifice we're going to, do? Did you just sell off your home, or did you rent out your home? Like, what was that transformation process?
Oh no, we rented out our home. So that single family house that we originally owned, we rented it out. And the cool thing about it was we basically automatically gained another rental when we moved into the multi-unit. Now we have this rental. So that mortgage is paid for. We're making money on top of that. And yeah, so that went into our rental portfolio, which just once you kind of add that on and you get that rental income coming in, you just make yourself a stronger and stronger candidate to get a mortgage in the future, because the banks see like, oh, you have these rentals, you have this income. And so
Hmm.
it really was a great, so we have this asset that we're basically not paying for. And over the past few years, it's been gaining value over time. So our tenant is paying the bills, and we are gonna be raking in the cash, once
Hmm.
we decide to sell it. So that's the ultimate. That's the key to the game right there.
So with that, the 3% down payment goes out the window though, since you're buying your second property. No, or
No, when you are so the 3% is 3.5% is when you're using an FHA loan. You don't
mhm.
have to be a first time home buyer to use FHA, and so as long as you're living in the property, and as long as you do not already have an FHA loan, you can use it.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, clarity there. Clarity there. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. And what is your opinion on flipping and wholesale? Because I know those are not so much what you focus on, but those are like super popular in the real
Mm-hmm.
estate. People are like, oh yeah, just wholesale and look, 50K in my account. And so it looks appealing to everyone. Versus I personally like the long term, like the house acting in a rental property. So I think that is really wealth for long term gain, especially we know, recession is coming up. So all those things. So what is your opinion on those, flipping and wholesale?
I love flipping and wholesaling because you can make quite a bit of money in a short amount of time, but your money is only as good as what you do with it. And so I don't know any flipper or wholesaler who doesn't own at least one rental because, like you said, that passive income every month, it's really steady. Well, hopefully if your tenant pays, you're going to have X amount of dollars on the first of the month. And so with flipping and wholesaling, a lot of people use that to get enough cash to buy rental properties. So I think it's great. But with wholesaling, you need a lot of time. You have to have a lot of time to do that, but you don't need any money. And you can wholesale with no money basically, and you don't have to have good credit, but you need tons of time. With flipping, you have to have not as much time, but you're going to have to really know what you're doing and like have really good contractors, but they're both great. Just make sure you still have some long-term strategy too.
That makes so much sense. See guys, y'all hearing all this nuggets? I'm personally taking notes, so all this nuggets is good. What were some of the what would you say were some of the biggest mistakes you made through your journey that you teach? Well, no, I can't ask you that question because you probably charge people for that.
I was going to answer it.
But what would you say are some, well, what's probably your top two mistakes that you've made when it comes to investing?
The first one that comes to mind is we bought a property with a tenant already in it. So the first duplex we bought, there was a tenant on one side was empty. We never really met the tenant. We didn't even ask to see the lease. There were so many things we didn't know to ask about. And it just ended up being like a slight disaster. We recovered from it beautifully. But that's the thing about real estate too, is experience will be your best teacher, to be completely honest. And the thing is too, people don't realize with any investment, there's risk, but when you have your money on the line, you're going to figure it out. Like it might get might get a little touch and go, at some points, but you're going to figure it out because that's your money. And so just, if you're scared to get started, just jump out there. Cause every day that you wait on the sidelines is another missed opportunity for your money to grow. And so, I will say that. So the first one is buying a property with a tenant in it. We didn't ask enough questions. And then the second one is, I think I didn't really have that mindset of sacrifice as early on as I should. It took a while for me to get into the mindset that if you're building wealth from the ground up, you got to sacrifice. Like I don't have no silver spoon or whatever the saying is. I don't have any like rich, auntie somewhere giving me money. So you have to make sacrifice. I didn't realize that. And I realized it a little too late.
And let's talk about, because you mentioned it a little bit, but let's talk about those tenant nightmares. Have you had any of those, or you've just been amazingly blessed to have great tenants?
So we have some really awesome tenants, and then we have had some bad experiences too, because actually 3 of the properties that we purchased have already had tenants in them, which is not a bad thing. Like I love purchasing occupied properties, but you could be purchasing other people's problems. And so when we bought the 4-unit, 3 units already had tenants in it, and then 1 unit that we lived in was empty. So we moved into that one. But the tenants weren't the best people on earth, and we had to end up putting all of them out, which is really scary when you're putting out people who aren't really the best citizens you've ever come across, and they know where you live, right? So here we are as the owners. They know where we live. They're not the best people you've ever come across, and we're kicking them out. So it was a little scary, but we survived.
And I think that's something I'm like, in going into this journey, I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I have amazing tenants, because like we're originally from New York, so I've seen what horrible tenants can look like. And
Yes.
it's a nightmare because there's laws that kind of protects them at times, and they
Yep.
know that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
I would also be real with like what you're getting into, folks.
the thing, yes, and there are some states that are very tenant friendly, like DC. It's very hard to put people out. It's very, very hard. But I
Mm,
will say this because that keeps a lot of people from investing in real estate. Like, oh, I don't want to get bad tenants. Every tenant is not terrible. If you have ever rented in your life, I know I used to rent. Like, I was an amazing tenant. There are people
mhm.
out there just like you who are looking for somewhere to live. The tricky part is when you're getting started investing, you usually will go towards kind of the cheaper end properties because you're just starting out, you don't have a lot of money. And when you go for those lower price properties, you know you may find a different like kind of tenant. So you have to be aware of where you're buying, who you're marketing to. Are you buying a property near a military base, near a hospital, near a college? Like, what kind of tenant are you going to be getting? But just interview, screen your tenants, and just know that there are people out there just like you who are looking for somewhere to live. Like, every tenant is not a bad tenant.
That's excellent advice. What are some of your favorite tools to use right now in as it pertains to investing and just dealing with real estate overall? Like the tools that maybe the top 3 tools that you're like, I absolutely cannot live without.
So Cozy, it's COZY, cozy.co. It's that's what I use for rental payments. And then what else? Like, my favorite website to look at properties is Redfin and Realtor.com. And then I don't know. I can't think of a third one, but those are
That's fine. That's fine. I'm putting her on the hot seat, guys.
No, it's okay.
No, those are a good one. I've definitely heard of Cozy, and I thought that was just genius. So you don't have to like go back and forth, just collect and rent. I thought that was genius. And you always just want things to simplify the entire process. And what's been, as we wrap it up, like what's been like your biggest takeaway? Just transferring into this lifestyle and being an investor, and I know you just had your I believe you had a daughter, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, congrats on that. I
Thank
know
you.
it's like, now you have a really different perspective as it pertains to generational wealth. I'm sure with your daughter, like, how's everything been in a few years, that you can, so how would you sum that up? Your overall experience.
Yeah, so now I don't know. I'm just so excited that my daughter will be able to see that she can literally do anything. And I don't even mind if she doesn't want to invest in real estate. Just the fact that she knows that she can is going to be
Mhm.
so powerful for her. And we're setting the foundation so that she can just have so many more options than I had, and that many
Mhm.
people in our community have, right? Like, it's so humbling for me, and I'm just really excited that she gets to see that as an example. But yeah, generational wealth is super important, and it's something that in the Black community we're really starting from the ground up, because we haven't really had the chance in most cases to inherit things from our parents and our grandparents, like our other counterparts. So I'm just really excited to change the narrative and inspire others to do the same.
That's awesome. I normally ask this question in the beginning, but since we're completing, would you say you're living your dream life right now?
Yes, definitely.
That's awesome. And before we go, we're going to do a slightly fun round. So I'm going to ask you some questions and you have to answer super quick. So you don't even think about it too much.
Okay.
um, so we're ready, guys, for our super fun round. So who's your favorite entrepreneur?
Oh, shoot! You said don't think about it too much. My leak, my leak teal.
Who's your favorite investor, real estate investor that you look up
Real
to?
estate investor. Oh my gosh, I can't even think. The Charm City Buyers, House Hunter 216, Hood Estates, like all of my friends.
Latest business win.
Latest business win. Oh, I just launched a new real estate summit online. So I'm going to bring together some of my favorite experts and we're going to teach about the different types of real estate investing we do. So I'm super excited about that.
Ooh, you have to get the link for that so we can share.
Okay.
The last book that you read.
It's called Crib Sheet, like a baby crib, Crib Sheet. It's about like raising a child.
Clearly momming.
Exactly.
Clearly momming. Oh gosh. The last business failure, and the lesson that you learned from it.
Ooh, business failure. I can't think specifically, but I'm pretty sure it's related to doing absolutely too much. I need to slow down.
Okay, we're going to take that one. And what is your best advice for our listeners to be a successful investor or just an overall successful entrepreneur?
Start out with your goal in mind. Like, don't become a real estate investor because you saw me on Instagram doing it or you heard this podcast. Do it because it aligns with your goals, and make sure you're doing the type of investing or the type of business that really will get you where you need to be, not where everyone else is on Instagram. Don't let Instagram rush you. Make sure you're doing what's best for you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Some great questions were answered. If our audience wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
So find me on Instagram at The Key Resource, and definitely DM me. Let me know you heard me on this podcast. I would love to chat with you guys. But once you find me on Instagram, everything you need is right in the link in my bio. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yay. Guys, definitely connect with her. I'll make sure I drop all those links in our show notes so you guys can connect with her and all the tools and everything that we mentioned. I'll also drop those in. Until next time, dream big, execute hard.
Are you looking to diversify your sales channels? Well, look no further. Dreams Inspire Reality Consulting can help you from step to step to launch and grow your brand on Amazon, Walmart, and eBay, the top e-commerce platforms in the world. Your ideal customers are searching for you everywhere but your website. Stop making it hard for them. Let us help you diversify your sales channels. Visit us at www.dreamsinspirereality.com to schedule a consultation.